Alrighty, today's date is May 14th, 2024. My name is Jacob Stickle. I'm the archival assistant at Warren County.
My name is Amber Stegner. I am the imaging support here at Warren County.
My name is Jon Branstrator, owner of Branstrator Farm. I do farming, grain milling, and I'm the treasurer of the Clinton County Regional Planning Commission.
All right, thanks for coming. We're here for the oral history program we have here, and I suppose we should just start with the childhood, right? When and where were you born?
So I'm on the border of Clinton County and Warren County, and that's where our farm is and has been. I was born in Wilmington at Clinton Memorial Hospital, 10 miles from the farm. And I grew up on the farm, and my parents loved to go to Florida in the winter, so I was my first trip to Florida was at 6 months old, and lasted until every winter until fifth grade, when my grades became suffering from being pulled out of school systems and put in other school systems, and so that's my start there in Warren County.
All right. Yeah, because you're right on the border between Warren County and New
Yes,
Clarksville,
I'm in Warren County, Clinton County. I'm in 3 townships: Washington Township and Vernon and Adams in Clinton County. So my farm is split up 3 ways, which, when we did the farmland preservation, made for a lot of extra paperwork.
Yeah, oh, definitely. When you have to navigate between all 3 of them, then. How did your family come to live here?
Back in 1821, Andrew Branstrator, who is buried on the farm, and his wife purchased 400 acres from Stephen Mason. Stephen Mason was a colonel in the Revolutionary Army and was given 1,000 acres from the administration of George Washington as a service as a colonel, and to get people out of town because there was no money to pay the officers, and they created the Virginia Military District to get people paid and to settle the land out here, where it was occupied by the Shawnee, I believe.
Yeah, sounds right to me. And they came here just to seek opportunity?
Let me get a new start here.
Mm-hmm.
The history of my family is not, it's pretty good, but it's not totally complete. We had a lot of property around Waynesville. There was a Branstrator Road right on the edge of Warren County outside of Harveysburg. And we had quite a bit of property, and during the Great Depression, some of it was lost. And then with marriages and that, some of it was either sold or inherited away from the original family.
I gotcha. I might be able to reference some of that in the maps we have in the reading room if you ever want to check them out.
I certainly would. And so when we was doing the farmland preservation, we went back as far, we needed to certify a century farm for the point, but we're really a bicentennial farm, but it was hard to find the records for an amateur like me, and so I would appreciate any help in that department. And we missed the bicentennial date a couple years ago, but which I'd hoped for. But farming keeps me quite busy, and it's not, combing through old books is not my forte.
Fair enough, and I'm sure we'll be able to find something, I would imagine, pretty quickly. Those ones in the reading room go to 1850s.
Mm-hmm.
If you guys own the farm around that area, it should be listed there.
Mm-hmm.
And we have different atlases we can reference. We'll talk about this later.
Thank you. I appreciate
we can help that. I did notice your bicentennial article, which looked interesting. You had so many news articles that you had that I didn't get a chance to read all of them.
Well, I love telling the story of agriculture and whatever projects, whether it's growing fruits and vegetables and that, and whenever I get an inquiry from a reporter, I take the time to sit down because I find reporters to be, really smart people doing great, trying to tell good stories, and it's been well worth my time to work with them and spend. Well, what's funny is that they'll say, "Oh, we can do this in like 45 minutes." And then 3 hours later, we're on our hands and knees looking for earthworms and talking about soil ecology.
I was wondering where you got that earthworm shot of. I just saw a picture of you like holding dirt and there's an earthworm. Like,
Well, that's part of it. The soil is our most important asset, and we've got to take care of it. And we haven't really done a great job of doing that.
Fair. I'm sure we'll get into that here in a little bit. So what were your parents like?
My mom was from Miamisburg, Beulah, and so she was as I was growing up, a housewife and was taking care of the house and garden. My house being a 1908 Sears and Roebuck model, the Chelsea model, and so cool as that sounds, wasn't any insulation. The wind would blow right through the walls. The old counterbalance windows, everything, rattled or leaked or whatever. So the house was always needing some updates, which I was able to do. And she took good care of me. And so my dad went away from the farm in his youth. He grew up working behind horses, and the drudgery of farm life did not appeal to him. And so he became a truck driver for Swift, and he was working routes in Florida and different things. And in World War II, he was stationed in Iceland building runways. And then somehow or another, he got stationed in Bermuda doing the same kind of work. And so he never saw combat. He was preparing the infrastructure for airports and ports and things like that.
Getting the backbone of the whole military campaign then.
And growing up around the equipment, he just naturally gravitated into running steam shovels or diesel excavators or different things, and worked out good for him.
It sounds like it. And it sounded, from the news article I read, it said that he came back to the farm afterwards?
Yeah, he came back to the farm and he started farming again. And he'd gone to a school in, I think it might have been in Purdue, and new thinking of agriculture at that time. And this was after World War II, when the bomb factories, the same ingredients for making bombs can be made into fertilizer. The Haber-Bosch system of creating nitrogen out of air can be used for munitions or for ammonia fertilizer. And so they had all this capacity, and before that, farmers would grow legumes to build up nitrogen in the soil. But now there was a shortcut to that. And so my dad became a corn farmer, corn every year, nothing but corn. Corn in Florida was the rotation. And that's where that old joke comes from. And so for my dad, it worked out good. He needed like a corn planter, a plow, a disc, a harvester, and then he put in a little grain handling system to dry the corn. And then we would sell it to the markets in Cincinnati generally, and just corn, nothing but corn, and a little sweet corn for a little variety, and that worked out financially quite well, but the soil didn't really care for it, and so my job growing up was to get on the old Alzheimer's D19 and fall plow the whole farm, hills and everything, to let the soil freeze and thaw and mow out over the winter. And the old planting equipment that we had from the 60s needed a really clean seed bed. in the mid 70s, John Deere invented a planter that would plant no-till, and we didn't need all that cultivation. So we would do all that and turn a blind eye to the soil erosion and other problems that came with that. But we weren't worried about it back in that day.
Yeah, just move fast and break things.
And yeah.
Mm.
And so I grew up with that mindset of farming, and just I couldn't imagine the complexity of cover crops and soil biology and everything that went with it, because we were just hacking the whole system with lots of nutrients.
I would imagine he, from what I've read, it sounds like you kind of got into it a little bit with your father about how to proceed with that.
I left the farm because I wanted to diversify, and I no longer wanted to participate in that system. I saw a lot of problems with it, some of which was the cost involved. The agricultural chemicals, the fertilizer, had gotten quite a bit more expensive. And by having a corn only, you suffered yield loss because of insects and fungal pathogens and different problems like that. Mm-hmm. And so I was having trouble making ends meet renting the farm from them. And I really did not envision becoming like a big rental farmer. So we had a farm financial crisis. The whole nation did back in the grain belt back in the 1980s due to export embargoes and different things like that, really big crops. And so it was like I'm a corn grower. I grow corn, and I want the federal government to give me subsidies, and because I'm a corn grower, and I don't want to think about anything else. I was thinking about fruits and vegetables and high value crops that would make a small farm viable, and that was a sin in the eyes of my father. So that I had a whole world out there to investigate, and that's what I did until he passed in 1989.
I was 89.
Yeah.
Okay. And when did you come back to the farm?
That's when I was living in Prescott, Arizona at the time, and trying to attend college and working on building roads on mountainsides and stuff like that.
Any little thing, huh?
And, it was great. I loved it. I still got friends. I still go. I love Arizona, and I love the borderland areas, and I love the mountains, and it's a beautiful state.
Well, I haven't been to Arizona. I've been to Colorado, and those mountains are gorgeous.
It's a southern with more Mexican food.
Oh.
Southern Colorado.
And that's where your studies took you, right?
And I attended Yavapai County Community College, and I took this amazing course while I was out there. It's called The Natural History of the Southwest, and it was taught and became one of the famous courses. But it was taught by a biologist and a geologist. And our very first trip was to the Grand Canyon, and if you can imagine going to the Grand Canyon with a geologist, and we camped out. And I was in that non-traditional student age at that point, and so we go and we do this, and they're talking all these layers of rock and the history and the millions of years, and that was phenomenal. But and I was affected by the Grand Canyon, just the sight of it for weeks. But that night, the migration of the male tarantulas happened right through our campsite. There was hundreds, if not thousands, of tarantulas moving through our campground, and I'm like, I pick up snakes and stuff, and I'd never picked up a tarantula. So the biologists, they're picking them up and they're playing with them and stuff, and I picked one up. I put it back. I said, I'm good. It was hairy and squirming, and it was good. but it was a phenomenal place to study minerals and that. And then I'd started another course when I got the word that my father had passed, and I gathered up my belongings and headed back to the farm.
Fair.
And I had to purchase part of the farm from my stepmom at the time. My dad had remarried, and so fortunately, with the help of the farm credit system, I was able to do that, and I proceeded to farm I got bigger for growing corn and soybeans, and I quickly realized that I was going to have to get a job in town to support my farming habit. And so that's when I got with Ohio State, Brad Bergerford being a specialty crop extension agent. And I started raising pumpkins. Was my first crop. I raised 6 acres of pumpkins, and it was phenomenal. I made good money. I readily sold everything. I was able to hire some great Mexican folk to come out and pick pumpkins with me, and I speak Spanish. So I went from being in an old combine to out in the sunshine with some just great people and making pretty good money. So that's when I started. Then I got into strawberries. I planted a peach grove, and I was raising other crops to keep people employed. So I had asparagus, I had the usual tomatoes, zucchinis and stuff, and then the pumpkins became really a big deal. And so I was up to like 30 acres of pumpkins, and I would market them to like Windmill Market. Blooms and Berries would take a lot there at Mainville, and it became I was shipping like 20,000 pounds a day from like the early September right up to Halloween.
Man.
And so I enjoyed that. And my last year of growing pumpkins was a couple of years ago, because at some point after I had gotten my mortgage paid off and everything, it's like, and I had embarked on this new agricultural enterprise of heritage grains and grain milling. And so I didn't need the money, and I had other interests, and it just wasn't. If it's not making me excited, I'm not going to do it very long.
Fair. And how has that affected your name? Because if you have your brand, and because before it was always corn. Did you find it difficult to get back out there as signing your name off to something other than pumpkins or corn, for that matter?
Well, this is America. We can reinvent ourselves. and so my main customer is the Dorothy Lane grocery stores, and they were my customer growing strawberries and asparagus. So I already had a relationship. I know the owners, and I had I attended and spoke at a grain school, and the head baker, Greg Tisler from Dorothy Lane, was there, and he said, "Bring it." And so I started bringing, and I had an older mill at the time, and so a few thousand pounds turned into, like last year, 30,000 pounds, and this year I'm doing nearly 2,000 pounds a week of bread flour and cornmeal for just Dorothy Lane.
Man, I did notice that was the main thing being sold on your website as well.
And then I have some smaller bakers around, and mostly in like Yellow Springs or Dayton, and some in Cincinnati. But they just get 100, 200 pounds at a time. It's not like putting 2,000 pounds in my van and taking it to Dorothy Lane.
Oh man, yeah,
so that's been the evolution of that. So then right at the end of last year, I decided that I needed a better mill. So I bought a 48-inch New American mill made in Vermont. And it's a vertical mill and it's very precision. And so I went from the Meadows, which is, it's okay. It was like a middle step and more affordable, but it just wasn't, I wasn't able to do the quality that I wanted to. So we can raise really good wheat here, but we typically just raise soft wheat. And that is just, I don't know, it's history or what. That would be a whole hour-long discussion of how we grow different things in different regions. And so, but we used to raise all these bread wheats, like Red Fife that I'm growing here in this part of the state. And we got away from that when the railroads were built and they started bringing in Western flour. At this point, I need a minute. I'm starting to get a throat tickle.
I gotcha.
Excuse me.
Something I want to
Did I
consider.
cough at you?
You're fine. My dad's a smoker, so he's out for
I
the
was
weekend
gonna
everywhere.
bring my water jug. Is there? You guys have a water?
We do have a water fountain over by the bathroom over here.
Mm-hmm.
Do you?
I can pause it.
Yeah,
Yeah, I just pause it.